We've talked about the push to keep people working from home, a push that public service unions have had big wins on and that the federal government has rolled over on. And the Fair Work Commission is having a look at this now. And big business groups have hit back, saying the flexibility can't be all one way. For instance, if employees working from home can hit pause for a while to go and do their school drop-offs or whatever, then they shouldn't be lining up for overtime when they make up that work out of hours. It makes sense, I suppose, but surely it's better to get people back to the office. Let's go to the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry's Chief Executive Officer, Andrew McKellar, joining us from Canberra. Good to talk to you again, Andrew. Essentially, in a nutshell, what are you putting to the Fair Work Commission?
Well, hi, Chris. Look, I think our concern here is that there are really two ways in which we can end up with more regulation in industrial relations. One, of course, is through legislation, and the second is through the Fair Work Commission and the way in which they change awards. So, look, what we're asking them to do is, in relation to things like rights around working from home, we want to keep that flexible. We want that to fundamentally be something that's agreed between an employer and an employee. We don't think it's something that needs to be prescribed in awards per se. And as you've said, one of the things that we are urging the Commission to be careful about is that if people are going in for these sorts of flexible working arrangements, which business is happy to look at, we shouldn't have a situation of double counting. So if you're going to start work early, that's fine. We'll give you some flexibility to take the kids to school or to look after your other responsibilities. But those early hours, there shouldn't be at a penalty rate. You can work your 7 hours, 7.5 hours. That should all be on ordinary time.
Yeah, it just makes sense. The flexibility has to go both ways now. And of course, the flexibility has been great for some people and some businesses and will continue to be into the future. But I think this is the nutshell. You've got the nub of it there. That is, it just has to be negotiated between workers and their businesses because the circumstances change in all sorts of industries, companies and with different people. But I fear that the federal government has muddied the waters here or actually, made this much more difficult in the long term because they caved in so early, didn't they, to the public service union. So our federal public servants have this innate bias that they're allowed to work from home unless there's a specific case as to why they shouldn't be able to. And that seems to put the bias in absolutely the wrong area, the wrong side of the debate, and that'll flow through everywhere now, won't it?
Well, I think there's been some extraordinary deals done, particularly for some of those federal public servants. So, we've seen a very significant uptake in working from home in a number of those central agencies. We've seen very significant new agreements where effectively they may be uncapped in terms of the flexibility that can be offered and a bias to agree to such demands. I think those are that sets a very high bar. I think that's very difficult if the expectation is that private businesses, particularly smaller and medium-sized businesses, are going to have to agree to those sorts of things. Really, I think that's an extraordinary overreach.
It is extraordinary. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. I appreciate it. Andrew McKellar there from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That's the idea that in some departments, 70% of employees are working from home in the federal public service.